Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're basically acting as historical detectives, piecing together the fragmented markers of the Viking Age to figure out a legendary clash that would absolutely forever alter the map of Europe. Because, this isn't just the story of a simple raid. It's a giant puzzle of historical fragments that point to a truly monumental shift in world history. So how was Paris destroyed? In the mid-9th century, this iconic, heavily fortified city was literally brought to its knees. But to understand how such a seemingly impenetrable fortress just fell into complete and total chaos, we've got to go back to the beginning. We have to look at the forces that were quietly brewing just beyond the horizon.
Section 1. Dawn of the Viking Age.
The beginning of the Viking Age. I just want to pause right there and let the weight of that sink in for a second. This wasn't just some brief, isolated conflict. It was the absolute dawn of an era that would completely reshape global borders, economies, and entire empires. We're looking at a time when these seafaring warriors suddenly expanded outward, and it was driven by this complex mix of political centralization back at their home, and of course, the massive lure of incredibly vulnerable wealth abroad.
Section 2. Target. The trading center.
Listen, Paris wasn't just a stone fortress. It was actually one of the absolute biggest, wealthiest trading centers of its time, just packed with Francian gold and global commerce. The River Seine? It was an absolute highway of wealth. But suddenly, the looming threat of invasion brought the city's lifeblood, all that doorstep trading, crashing down to a grinding halt. Everyday commerce was completely paralyzed. Instead of bustling merchants, the city is suddenly filling up with soldiers and these hastily thrown together fortifications. It created an incredibly volatile environment. And in this desperate, frantic scramble for defense, the incoming Viking invaders suddenly became the prime target of chaotic counterattacks. All that immense wealth was now caught directly in the crosshairs of absolute chaos.
Section 3. The collision course.
This whole conflict was ultimately driven by two massive opposing human forces. On one side, you have King Louis the Pious, representing the deeply rooted established order of the massive Carolingian Empire. He was desperately trying to hold together this vast, heavily bureaucratic and Christian realm. And then, on the other side, you have the Danish King Horik, who represented the incredibly aggressive, expanding, and highly mobile force of the north. It's King Louis the Pious versus Danish King Horik. We're talking about two entirely different worlds, using completely different ways of waging war and governing, totally destined to just collide on the global stage.
Section 4. The fall of Paris.
Historical sources from the time, they don't just call this a normal battle or a standard siege. No, they actually describe it as a Valkyrian attack. It was as if terrifying mythological chaos had literally descended straight from the sky. The sheer brutality and the insane speed of the Norsemen's fleet just completely shattered the city's defenses. Calling it a Valkyrian attack perfectly captures the relentless, overwhelming warfare unleashed right on the streets of Paris. The trading center didn't just casually fall, it was totally consumed by fire, sword, and a tactical ferocity that the Franks were, frankly, simply not prepared for. So where does this leave us? What did this ultimate destruction mean for the rest of the world? Well, when a trading center of this magnitude falls in such a catastrophic, spectacular manner, the shockwaves don't just politely stop at the city walls. They ripple out, fundamentally altering the entire global dynamic. The successful sack of Paris basically proved that the very heart of the Phrygian Empire was vulnerable. It effectively opened the floodgates for decades of further incursions and forever changed the power balance of medieval Europe. Thank you so much for joining me to decode this incredible puzzle in history. Until my next upload, have a good week.